Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you today and share my own reflections on the passage you just heard. Recently, my Dharma study group has been focusing on a chapter in the Big Red Book of Scriptures entitled Birth and Death. The passage you just heard came from that chapter. There is a specific sentence in that chapter that gave me great pause. Master Changsan, one of the founding Master Sodeson's first disciples, is actually talking to spirits of people who have died in the Korean War. He says, and I quote, "By just one shift in your thinking, the path of corresponding life-giving, where you and I can both live, will open up and all of us will be in harmony." I thought when I first read this passage, whoa, that's a tall order. Just one shift in one's thinking will change all that? It seemed incredulous to me. But it got me thinking about this shift, this turning of the mind, and I want to share with you all where that has led me. The first aspect I've been pondering of this turning of the mind pertains to our own individual, private, intimate with self experience of being conscious. It is this moment-to-moment flavor of being in our own bodies with our own personal minds. For me, it's what it's like to be Anne, moment to moment, day after day. I notice that for myself, that there is a frequent, if not omnipresent, pull toward unpleasant or downright painful inner states. This can take the form of a little fear here, a little doubt there, oh, here comes shame, oh, there's some sadness. It can range from the blahs to out-and-out suffering. A number of years ago, I was actually relieved to learn that neuroscientists have discovered that the human brain has what they call a negativity bias. That's their term. This thing our brains do actually has a scientific name now. This means that left to its own devices, our brains will be drawn to negative states, to emotional pain. One neuroscientist describes our brains as being Velcro for the negative and Teflon for the positive. Gosh, what to do if this is our brain's default mode? This is where personal, private turning of the mind comes in. Rick Hanson, who wrote Buddhist Brain and Hardwiring Happiness, is a psychologist, neuroscientist, and a Buddhist. He talks about the healing effect on the brain of turning the focus of one's mind toward good-feeling stimuli. He identifies sensory stimuli, social interaction, and a sense of accomplishment as directions in which to steer the mind in order to elicit a better feeling inner state. He goes on to educate us that doing this naturally increases dopamine in the brain. And dopamine, in turn, is the neurotransmitter that increases motivation, capacity to learn well, and a sense of well-being or pleasure from living. Perhaps this is a way to describe what the very first essential Dharma of daily practice is all about. That by letting go of these disturbances, we maintain the equanimity of our true nature. That by turning the mind, for example, to the visual beauty of the sky, or to the joy of sharing a laugh or a hug with a loved one, or to the gratification from acknowledging to ourselves a day of accomplishment of tasks and chores, we move ourselves to a new and different and more peaceful state of inner being. By just one shift in your thinking, all of us will be in harmony, Master Chong-san said. The power of this turning applies as well to our relationships with others. This was made so real to me recently after I had a painful conversation with a good friend of 40 years. During this conversation, my friend said some words that hurt me deeply. After the conversation, I was full out suffering. For days, my mind churned with rehearsing what I was going to say to her. These imaginary conversations were either full of apologies and shame or blaming and anger. My mind seemed to burn with a myriad of painful feelings and thoughts. When I brushed my teeth, when I drove to work, when I had a few minutes between clients, at hundreds of moments during the day. I felt obsessed. I was agonizing. At some point, I said to myself, okay, Anne, you are suffering. All the years you've been going to the temple and studying the Dharma have given you tools. Now is a time to use them, for heaven's sake. Master Chong-san's words, by just one shift in your thinking, came again to mind. How can I shift my thinking, I wondered. To where can I turn my mind for relief? Happily, the fourth essential Dharma of daily practice came to mind. It says, let us replace unbelief, greed, laziness, and ignorance with faith, zeal, questioning, and dedication. In particular, the words unbelief turning into faith came to mind. I thought, what if I turn my mind from unbelief to faith in the love I do believe my friend and I have for each other? Friends, it was remarkable. My mind quieted, the tension in my body eased, and my heart softened. There was a sense of comforting space surrounding the pain within me. The pain still existed, but it felt reduced in power and surrounded by something significantly more peaceful and restful. To be honest, my mind can still go to an agonizing place regarding my friend. However, turning my mind from the disbelief, which sounded like she doesn't really care about me and maybe I don't really care about her, to the faith, the love between us is still real and present, has somehow cleared the air along the 500-mile geographic stretch between us. Communication is now lighthearted and loving. Turning my mind within literally a few seconds ended the suffering and radically changed my inner state. A third aspect of Master Chong-san's words I'd like to talk about pertains to our own deaths. I will read the quote one more time. Please be reminded that he is talking to the spirit of a man who died. Master Chong-san says, by just one shift in your thinking, the path of corresponding life-giving, where you and I can both live, will open up, and all of us will be in harmony. So this is a mind-blower. If I'm understanding the passage correctly, it is saying that even after death, as our spirit navigates whatever is on the other side, a simple shift in our spirit's thinking, turning of the mind, steering one's thoughts in a new direction toward what is good for ourselves and others, can open up like a door, entry for all of us into an existence of life-enhancing harmony. This is really hard for me to wrap my brain around, and perhaps I'm taking the passage too literally. One spirit's shift of thinking and we are all at peace? Really? Whether I am taking the passage too literally or not, I do believe Master Changsan is saying that a simple shift in thinking has enormous power to change our experience of the moment, to change our relationships with others, and maybe even our experience of death. And he is saying something more. He is saying that our own individual shifts in thinking can have a profound effect on others, maybe even all others. By just one shift in thinking, I paraphrase, all of us will be in harmony. This connects us to one of the basic tenets of Won Buddhism, as well as most religions. That is, that we are all one. We are all interconnected. The tiniest flutter of the butterfly wing, as well as the seemingly tiniest shift inside our own private, most intimate self, both when we are alive and on the other side, can affect everything and everyone because we are all that inextricably connected. I know when I turn my mind in my day-to-day life to a better feeling place, I feel lighter and happier. With my friend, she must have sensed something different in me because the humor, warmth, and playfulness I so love and appreciate in her returned to her communications. And maybe, just maybe, after we die, this turning of the mind may bring greater harmony and peace, not only to our own souls, but also to the souls of others. As I near the end of my talk, I want to dispel any potential misconceptions. I chose this topic for my talk because it is something I am struggling with day by day. The phrase is turn the mind, and just one shift in your thinking could make it seem so simple, so easy. That is all we have to do and all will be well. But it is not so easy. Believing it can really make a difference. Remembering to do it. Finding the motivation to leave the painful or unpleasant inner or relational state, which is the human brain's negativity bias, all are really challenging. That negativity bias wants to take up as much bandwidth as possible. My hope with this talk is that it might inspire you to believe in its power, that the turning of our minds is worth it. It can bring relief in the moment, healing in some relationships, and possibly even add to the measure of goodness, harmony, and healing for us all.